Art of the Kickstart, Episode 23.
Welcome to the artofthekickstart.com, where entrepreneurs are constantly pushing the envelope to build businesses of greatness. Inventors are innovating and creating the products of the future, and backers stand strong for what they believe. These are some of the great thinkers, inventors, and leaders of our time. Here are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Art of the Kickstart. Today I'm extremely excited to have Danilo Malanczyj on the line today to discuss the new technology he's got, basically freeing up your hands, letting you put your cell phone anywhere. Thanks so much for coming today, Danilo. I'm pretty excited.
Hi, Matt. It's Danilo here.
So Danilo, before we jump into Clipless, let's get a success quote, something that you live by, something other people can learn from. I always love these.
Okay, this one I love. It's you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
God, I love Michael Jordan. Such an amazing athlete.
Actually, that one's Wayne Gretzky.
That one's Gretzky? Oh, man. Oh, you're killing me. You're making me look terrible. So let's jump back into you. But I love Gretzky's great as well. So, Clipless. Let's start there. Right before you built this company, what were you doing? Where did you get your skills to become an inventor and a creator?
Well, I've always kind of had a bit of a creative mindset and wanted to be an inventor, but I was an engineer and I went to a school where we had to do a co-op program. So I was actually doing a lot of different co-op terms, actually working in different companies, and I got a lot of different experience in both manufacturing environments and product development. And so where I was actually working before I came up with Clipless was in an environment where everyone needed phones on them all day long, doing consulting type work. And that's where the initial idea kind of came about.
Did you have that itch? I've done the co-op program as well. You're working for someone else. While you're there, was it just destroying you as an entrepreneur, as a person, to kind of do that soul-wrenching work day in and day out? Or is it something that you could handle?
Well, I don't want to say absolutely, but I would have to say most entrepreneurs have one thing in common, and that one thing is that they hate the status quo. So, like, you question everything, the way everything's done, and throughout my co-op terms and whatnot, I saw a lot of things that I would, if I was running the show, I would change about how I was doing it.
So you see this, and you're in corporate. You see people with those silly little fanny pack-esque phone holders. Is that where your idea came to kind of create a more minimal, simplistic solution?
No, I would have to say no. Really, the way it kind of came about was kind of formulating around the problem in the first place. So it wasn't about trying to come up with an alternative. It was more about, it was brought to my attention from colleagues that were actually female. So people who generally didn't have pockets, or people whose clothing wasn't phone friendly for wearing a belt clip holster at the time, they were really itching for some kind of alternative. And so that's where the kind of the brainstorming kind of first started, where we were trying to explore different ways of potentially attaching a phone, carrying a phone, and that's kind of where it all got started.
So you're doing this. How do you come up with ideas, and how do you start prototyping them?
Okay, so ideas is one thing. So a lot of it with ideas is there's rarely a bad idea. So especially as part of the brainstorming process, you're really trying to think of a million different ways of tackling the same problem. And then you kind of have to take an approach of evaluating each of those ideas after you already got them down on paper. So the way I kind of did it was I came up with maybe about 10 different concepts of how to accomplish securing a phone to fabric in a new way that wasn't limited to just the edge of a pocket or a belt. And then from there, it was kind of evaluating those different approaches to how easy would it be to create a prototype, and how expensive would it be to actually produce an end product? Like, was it even worth going down a route if we knew that it wasn't possible to produce it cheap enough that people would actually want the product?
What are some criteria that you have for that? That's really important, making sure that you can create something at a value that people value. So it's not ridiculously priced. How did you guys go about making sure you could get this out there for something reasonable?
So I would have to say that and this is advice to all entrepreneurs, the biggest thing is getting out and talking to people. So I literally canvassed malls. I was one of those crazy people inside of a mall, and hey, I've got this I'm working for this company, and I'm getting some feedback on this crazy idea, being able to secure a phone, say, magnetically to the side of your clothes. If you could do that, and I kind of explained some of the benefits, if you could achieve that, what would you be willing to pay for a solution potentially? And I'd kind of give them different thresholds. If it was $20, would you consider it? 25, 30, and kind of did that, and not necessarily isolating a specific target demographic. And then from there, just based on getting people's feedback on the underlying problem itself, you could kind of figure out who was most interested and who was willing to pay the most amount of money for your potential solution, even before you have anything.
That is so ballsy, going to the malls and just doing it. That's really inspirational for me, and something I know everyone out there has trouble doing. You're putting out basically your baby, your idea for people to just slay. When did you start to build the team? Was this something you were always working with the four of you on, or?
Well, and that's been an up and down thing, I'll be honest. Like, it first started with one of my best friends from university. We were basically roommates all through university, very similar schedules in school and out, and we had kind of a complementary skill set. So we kind of started together. We put a good 2 years into it, and for a while I was actually living in his house for about 6 months, and at one point we even imported a CNC machine from China and had that running in his basement. And then we finally hit a point where we were just struggling a little bit to actually get the product to market in such a way, and kind of life happens and we actually had to go our separate ways. But still involved on the back end of things, but not necessarily in the day-to-day. And we're still really great friends. He was one of my best men at my wedding just recently.
That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way. You referenced 2 years. How long have you been working on getting Clipless to market, really getting it out there?
It's been 3.5 years now.
Wow. What challenges have you come through? Because there's always things that get in people's way. It's always 2, 3, 4, 5 times longer than you expected, 10 times more expensive. What are some of the challenges, other than what you've brought up so far, that really forced you to take this time to really perfect it?
Well, there's been a number of challenges. There's been a couple technical, there's been some with financial at the same time. If we had a big artist, we would have been able to refine this product a heck of a lot faster. But the reality is, when you're coming up with something new, sometimes it's difficult to actually produce enough product at a cheap enough price to prove out the market. So we were left with a really difficult situation where we couldn't actually 3D prototype our product, because our product's strong enough to pick up a 12-pound sledgehammer, to give you a sense of strength.
Oh, wow.
And it literally just explodes plastic. So we actually hit a wall where we realized we needed to work with metal, essentially. And the problem is, with prototyping metal, there's not any cheap 3D printing solutions out there yet. So we were actually getting prototypes CNC machined. And so each one of our prototypes was over $1,000. So you can imagine it's very difficult to produce a large number of products up front when the product still hasn't even been, say, tested in the marketplace. So that was a huge obstacle for us, and that's really what made us turn to Kickstarter. So basically, when we refined the product enough that we were very confident in the design, we turned to Kickstarter in order to be able to afford to get the money up front to pay for all the tooling in order to get this stuff like die casting.
So Danilo, one of the things a lot of entrepreneurs do, they hang on to an idea and they'll work it beyond its death. They'll just keep going with it until it destroys them. And this almost sounds like it was that for you, but you guys managed to pull a phoenix. You resurrected the business. But how do you know if something's worth going forward with versus when you should just cut your losses and go on to something else?
There is no magic answer to that question, and it'll be gut-wrenching for anyone who tries to go through it and has to make that decision whether or not to pull the plug or not. For me, it came down to a personal decision when I started this, that I at the very least needed to see this hit the marketplace. If I couldn't get it into the hands of people, everything else was a waste. So if I had gone about it differently, I probably would have valued my time a little bit more and quit and gone on to the next thing. But I couldn't bear to just let it die. So until I have a sure sign from the marketplace that they don't want this product, that's when I need to at least get it there.
I love the stubbornness. I think that's really important to succeed. And my next question for you. So you've got this. You guys did a great job with your campaign. You had about 80%-ish, give or take, above what your goals were. What happens next? You guys funded not that long ago, if I remember. No. You funded quite a long time ago. I'm getting my years wrong. Terrible with numbers. What happens after you have a successful Kickstarter campaign? What are some of the challenges, and where do you go next?
So the challenges really are is growth, scaling. So in the first place, we're servicing a number of early adopters, and we have a wide spectrum. And the challenges post-launch are really focusing your efforts in order to scale in a way that can be sustainable. A lot of people don't realize when it comes to products like this that a lot of people just think, oh yeah, just get it on the retail shelves. A lot of people don't know that in retail, for instance, say you need to service a large order of, say, 30,000 units. You need to float all that cash up front for close to 3 months before even getting a dime back from the retailer. So it can be very, very cash intensive and very, very difficult to scale. And so our next stages are definitely scaling in a methodical method, and that's what we're looking to do.
How do you compete with competition? There are people that do similar types of functionality. You have pockets, you have people with all sorts of weird little gadgets to hold their phones. How do you compete with them? How do you stand apart?
The biggest thing for us is focusing on the people that see the most value in what we're trying to deliver. So, for instance, generally speaking, it's people whose lives aren't tech friendly, whose clothing isn't tech friendly. Those are the ones that have come to the forefront that see the most value in this product. So picture your suburban mom who's got kids, who's on the road all day long, chasing after those kids, running around the house. And in addition to that, we've also got this trend of moving away from having landlines in homes. I'm sure yourself and I probably don't have landlines, and that's just the way it's going. So this challenge of always needing to be connected and reachable is actually expanding further beyond what we originally thought of just in an office work environment. And so the way we're standing apart is making sure that we're first going to grab hold of a specific niche and then own it. And then from there, grow accordingly.
Yeah, you just simplified people's lives, and really, you've got your branding nailed down pretty well, I think. And I want to jump now into the launch round. How's that sound, Danilo?
Sure.
Welcome to the launch round, where we take our guests through a series of rapid-fire questions geared towards unlocking the inner inventor and entrepreneur in all of us. Get ready to blast off and unlock your inner potential. Let's do this.
So what does it mean to be an inventor?
I would say an inventor is definitely somebody who is constantly looking to improve things. And when I say improve things, that could mean in creating something absolutely new, solving a problem in a completely, like an old problem in a completely different way. I consider that to be an inventor. So
magnetism, that's what powers your product. That's how you keep it afloat. Who's your favorite superhero? Do you go Magneto? How are you going? How are you going to play this?
Do I have a choice?
You can go any way you want.
I wouldn't call Magneto a superhero, first of all. He's a supervillain. I would have to say my favorite superhero would be, this is a tricky one. Definitely Iron Man. Definitely.
Iron Man? Okay, fair enough. That's where you see yourself, Tony Stark. So, let's get a bold prediction on the wearables market. 20 years from now, what is the crazy stuff that people are going to be using?
Oh, this is tough. I would say, in particular for wearables, for sure, our garments. So right now we have a lot of fitness trackers and things like that. We already have new forms of threads that can conduct electricity, and we're going to have basically all of our clothing is going to be embedded with different sensors. So not only will we be able to benefit from it from a fitness perspective, but also from health perspectives. And I see medical environments also shifting towards monitoring patients and people that are high risk using specialty clothing.
I think that's awesome. I think we have a crazy future ahead of us. And part of that is business. So in business, there's people that have come before you. What books have you read? What's really influenced you, changed your life, and changed how you look at the world? What are some books?
Definitely in terms of startups and entrepreneurs, I would say the Bible for entrepreneurs is Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. For anyone who hasn't read it, the really interesting thing about it, it has to do with how mass markets and people adopt new technologies. And it's really interesting because regardless of who this subset of people is that you might look at, there's always a small percentage of them that are early adopters. There's a larger cross-section of them that are an early majority. And then you have people that are more like laggards. So what that means is that anytime you've got a new form of technology, the early adopters are the ones that try it regardless of what it is or what the reputation is on it, because they want to be able to tell their friends all about it. And then similarly, you have like these early majority people that look to the early adopters. So I know I have one of my best friends, Tiago. I almost, without question, I look to him and be like, hey, what's the latest and greatest thing that you're working on? Or what's the latest and greatest thing that you're trying? And I let him weed out the bad stuff. And so really what this book is all about is a way for entrepreneurs in particular to market their new products, new services, new technology in such a way that it can be adopted. Because if you try to be everything to everyone, you basically sputter out and fail. You run out of resources way too quick. And so that has influenced me tremendously.
Yeah, you hit that niche hard and then you eventually scale it out to mass markets. Okay, last question of the launch round, Danilo. What's your favorite Kickstarter campaign of all time?
That one's easy for me. It has to be the Pebble smartwatch, and mainly because, well, I do know one of the founders. He went to school with me, but what I really like about it is it was the first real success story that put Kickstarter on the map, and it is one of those stories where it was 4 years in the making, and all of a sudden it was an overnight success story. And so I'm starting to be able to relate to that, because at the time when they were starting to see some success, I was just beginning anyways, and I'm starting to see the trials and tribulations that it can take in order to get that amount of traction.
It's just terrible what society tells you. These overnight success stories, they take decades, they take years, they take so much effort, and they try to strip away that hard work. And speaking of hard work, let's jump back into your campaign. So Clipless, you guys did a great job. You raised almost $44,000. What would you do differently if you were doing it today? What things would you change? Kickstarter's changed a lot.
That's tough, because really the game has changed. And even when Pebble Smartwatch, they had their Kickstarter campaign, the game's changed a lot from that point too. And what I mean by that is there's a lot more projects that are out there at the same time. And so the biggest difference would be doing even more legwork in preparation for that campaign. I would definitely be doing a better job at getting in touch with influencers ahead of time, ahead of that campaign, in order to be able to get a little bit more coverage. That's what I would do.
I hear that so much from entrepreneurs. Just make sure you get out in front and just do it, and then launch. Never start early. And last question. Danilo, you've been such a cool guest to have on. I love what you guys are doing. I love the success you're finally starting to see after all these years of hard work. Drop a knowledge bomb for people. One piece of advice for entrepreneurs, inventors, people that need to change the world. What can you tell them?
Let's just say you definitely have to get out there and talk to people. You got to be talking to your prospective target market, your target audience. Because chances are you probably got it wrong. You might think you have something that a specific person wants, and the more you talk to them, the more you actually divulge with them, you might learn that they're not actually your target customer. So that's the biggest thing. Get to know your customer intimately as much as you can, as early as you can, and never really stop.
That is amazing advice. You have to know who you're selling to, otherwise you'll never really sell much. Thanks so much for coming on tonight, Danilo. Give yourself a pitch. Share Clipless. If people want to check you out, they want to find an amazing way to store their cell phone, or just want to see more about you, where's the best place for them to meet you at?
Well, our product, it allows you to secure just about any phone with a flat back to any fabric in just about any location. So you're no longer limited to the edge of a belt or pocket, and you can be hands-free while you do it. And the best part is we've also bundled in together these little wall mounts that you can then use that same phone, that same mount on an iPad and secure it to, say, the backsplash of a kitchen or the dashboard of your car. And to boot, we've got NFC enabled in all of those mounts. So for all those NFC fanatics out there, you can program them any way you'd like.
Guys, if you have a cell phone, this will work for you. If not, just reach out to Danilo. Help him out. Say thanks for coming on the show. Tell him how he changed your life, how his story has impacted you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. And thanks so much, Danilo. You've been an awesome guest.
Okay, thank you.
Have an awesome night, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Art of the Kickstart, where we believe makers, inventors, and entrepreneurs are changing the world and bringing humanity forward into the future. I'm your host, Matt Ward, and it's been a pleasure guiding you through this journey of creation and innovation. I hope you're inspired by this and check out artofthekickstart.com to get more information and tactics to help you launch your own business, product, and dreams.